A friend of mine asked me the other day, how do you deal with all of the stress? And honestly, the very first thought that came into my mind was, not nearly as well as I'd like. That's because for almost a decade now, I have been a content creator. And for many of those years, a full-time content creator. It's what I spend my time doing. And honestly, when I got started, I was not prepared for what that would mean for me, especially mentally and emotionally. I've had this video on my list to make for probably for months now, and I've been reluctant to do it. And I think the reason why is it's hard to know what to say about mental health, about stress, about anxiety, and that impact that it tends to have on content creators. So I'm gonna go ahead and start this video off by saying this. I'm not a therapist, and I'm certainly not your therapist. I'm certainly not qualified to give you any sort of specific advice or diagnosis. What I'm doing here is I'm gonna share a bit about my experience as a content creator, some of the things that I've identified as major causes for anxiety, for stress, for just mental health issues as a content creator, just sharing from my experience and some of the things that I do, some of the things that have worked for me to be able to deal with that. So now that we've got that sort of legal disclaimer out of the way, let's jump right in to mental health. All right, so for content creation and for us as business owners, if you're a content creator and you're trying to make some money from it and you're working for yourself, you're a business owner too. And again, that was kind of a big part of that conversation I had with this friend was trying to do business stuff, content creation. There's so much. There's so much. And there's often too much to be able to do it all. And so that brings me to like the first cause as a content creator and as a business owner that I have found for a lot of anxiety and even depression. And that is just with content creation, there's a constant treadmill. If you're on social media, the treadmill can be even worse. If you don't publish consistently, you might just kiss your audience goodbye. And it's almost like I have to create so much content, and if I don't keep up with all of it, I will never succeed. This leads to overworking, I do this, force myself, like I'm looking at my phone late into the evening, looking at work-related stuff, looking at how my content's performing. Looking at that does not help it perform better, by the way, but I'm checking all the time. It then gets exacerbated by perfectionism. I can't publish that until it's good enough. Why? Because I don't want to put something out there that isn't good enough. Somebody might see that. We don't want that. So we do a ton of work and oftentimes don't even end up publishing. And when we do, we then feel super insecure about it. Another piece that contributes to this is when opportunities do come up and we feel like we have to say yes to everything, because who knows which one's gonna actually work. So there's a lot going on here, but basically it's just this kind of overworking and this constant input going into our brains, and we can't put it down. Let's talk about some strategies that I've found that have helped me and that are helping me to deal with this issue. First and foremost, we have to acknowledge one thing. There are some things that are just completely out of our hands. You can't control them. And so stressing out about those things, all that does is cause anxiety. All that does is make you less healthy. Stress causes a physical response in your body. It releases cortisol. I'm not a doctor, but I know a lot about this because I've been in this for a long time. It releases cortisol, which by the way, is really bad for weight loss. It's really bad for sleep. It's really bad for pretty much everything, except that it makes you more alert. That's the point. It's the point of it in the first place, is it makes you alert to the danger so that you can get out of the danger. But when the danger isn't real, it's not physical, there's no way out of it. When the danger is, my business might not succeed, the thing I'm working on might fail. How do you ever get rid of that feeling? Well, the first thing is by choosing to accept, like you have to not just like think this, but you have to truly force yourself to believe that things that are outside of your control are not worth your attention. One big one that's hit a lot of us who have content on the internet is Google. Google just changed the game and destroyed traffic for a lot of websites. Does that mean we do nothing about it? No, of course not. But guess what I'm not gonna do? I'm not gonna sit here and gripe and worry about Google. I'm gonna figure out what are the things that are under my control. And if we thought about this in the past, which a lot of us did a pretty good job on. There have been a lot of things that I've recommended that I didn't do on all of my websites, but a lot of you did, and I'm proud of you for this. What do we do about this? Focus on the things that are in your control. Also, optimism and hope. If you're a pessimist, if you just believe that things are gonna go bad, they're gonna go bad a lot more often. But if you have optimism, if you have hope, then you're going to see the good. And a lot about what happens to us in our lives and a lot about the way that we feel about the world has way more to do with how we perceive things. And so if you look at everything with a pessimistic standpoint, you're gonna see how that thing was not good enough. But when you look at it from an optimistic standpoint, you're gonna look and see how that presented me this great opportunity. But now let's get back to the overworking and the saying yes to everything. Whenever you're faced with a new opportunity, one of the best things you can do is to have criteria or even just specific values, things that are most important to you that you measure that opportunity against. And if that opportunity doesn't fit your criteria for what's driving you toward your goals, you toward your success, then it's not an opportunity you should say yes to. You don't have to say yes to every opportunity in business to succeed. In fact, you'll be far more likely to succeed if you focus your attention on fewer good opportunities that match your values and match where you're trying to go. That means you need to let yourself say no to any of those opportunities or any things that people request of you that aren't gonna move you toward your goal, that don't match those fundamental criteria for you. Look, saying no to people isn't rude. That's a problem that I have, and a lot of us who are people pleasers, we tend to have, is we say yes to everyone, even if we know it's not a good opportunity. It's not rude to say no. In fact, you're better off not leading somebody down a path that in the end is gonna be a waste of their time. So, not everybody reacts perfectly when you say, no, I would like to pass up this opportunity right now, or no, I don't have time to help you with this right now because I have important things in my life too. It is important to take care of yourself. You can't draw water from an empty well. You can't keep giving if you have nothing else to give. This is an important principle. In fact, for you to better be able to give and to help other people, you need to have enough rest to be able to give. It's honestly like the way you can look at it, and this is something that my own therapist had to really walk me through, which was that if it's important to me to help people and to want to serve people, which is one of my core values, one of my fundamental principles. One of the reasons, by the way, that I even chose to work for myself was to free up my time and hopefully to free up my finances to be able to devote more of my time to helping the people around me, to being there for my kids, to helping the people in my community and around the world. And the thing that my counselor really had to kind of beat into my head was that when I'm taking a little bit of time for myself to get the rest that I need, to recharge, to enjoy life, that's actually preparing me, it's recharging me, it's enabling me to do a better job of helping the people around me. In fact, it's amazing, the more you study mental health, that being idle too much, right? Like spending too much time on yourself and focusing inward on just yourself, and then being idle, like, oh, I'm just resting this week. For the whole week, I'm gonna rest. Now, you may need that. Some people may need that. Sorry, I'm not trying to mock that. But for many of us, if we're just gonna take more time to rest because we're still feeling depressed, being idle actually makes it worse. Having a purpose actually brings far more joy and actually helps alleviate depression and anxiety. Again, it's what I found to work for me at least. And that's why I still choose to say yes to a lot of opportunities especially opportunities that come up to help people. Honestly, there are times I probably still should say no because I stretch myself too thin. But what I find is that I get a lot of joy out of those interactions, out of actually helping people, and that is far better for my mental health. What I probably need to do is do a better job of saying no to business opportunities because I get like 30 a day. Let's learn to say no. All right, number 2. The second thing that I've found causes me mental health struggles as a content creator is success and not achieving it fast enough, not achieving enough of it. You feel like you're not reaching your goals, you're not reaching them fast enough, and oftentimes no amount of success that you do achieve feels like nearly enough. I have seen content creators, I've talked to Project 24 members, I've talked to family members who seem to be constantly frustrated at themselves because No matter what they had achieved, they never felt like they were where they should be. The biggest reason for this is oftentimes because we measure ourselves against an ideal. We may set a goal for ourselves and we may work toward that goal and we may even achieve that goal, but we're never happy because the more successful you are, the more you grow, the more you're able to do, the more you see that you could grow more. And so the more you kind of look at this ideal and recognize that you haven't achieved it. You're trying to hit a moving target. This concept is amazing. And I learned this from Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy from a book called The Gap in the Gain. Basically, we have these ideals and these ideals are like a mirage in the desert. The closer you get to this ideal, it still seems just as far away. And it leads to depression, it leads to just dissatisfaction. We have to stop doing that. And the recommendation that they made, and I promise you that this will absolutely help, is we learn to compare ourselves only to ourselves in the past. Where were we when we started this goal? And how much have we grown since then? Now, another similar issue is you may also be comparing yourself to other people or to other people's vision of what success should mean. You set your own success criteria. If you feel like you need to drive a fancy car because that is what people around you measure success by, you will never be happy. Because no matter how many of those symbols of success that you have, there will always be other symbols that you probably can't afford. Almost nobody in the world can afford all of the status symbols. And the ones who can, we look down on because they hoard too much of their wealth. What you want is what matters to you. You define what success means. You set the criteria, you set your values. Is there a trend here in this video? Yes, you decide what matters to you and don't let other people decide that for you. That is the key to good mental health, or at least one of the keys, in my opinion, as a content creator and a business owner, not as a mental health professional. I have to keep making sure that that's clear. I mentioned the other issue here, and that is comparing yourself to other people. Other people are at a different place in their lives on different things. Other people have strengths that are different from your strengths. We all know this, I think, fundamentally in our brains. And yet, how often do we look at other people and compare our success, our failures? Social media is like thrives. It's like the purpose of social media is to literally look at other people and how great things are for them, and then look at ourselves and feel ashamed. And then what do? We go and post the very prettiest, best things about ourselves so that we can feel better. We tell our kids multiple times a week this phrase: comparison is the thief of joy. Anytime someone's like, but she got, forget it. She's 2 years younger or older, or 4 years younger or older. They're a different age than you. They're gonna have different privileges, right? Different things are going on. Different people are gonna be capable of different things. That's just how life is. And if you're gonna compare yourself to anybody, compare yourself only to yourself in the past and celebrate how much you've grown. All right, now we need to go into the third cause that I've found, at least for me, for mental health struggles as a content creator. And that is the stuff that other people say or do about me. Now, this isn't exclusive to content creators. I mean, bullies have been around since the dawn of time, right? There's always somebody who's trying to tear somebody else down to make themselves feel bigger, better, whatever. But if you're creating content and putting it out there on the internet, you are being vulnerable. And it's one of the reasons why so many of us end up as perfectionists, is because we have been picked on before and we just don't want to give people grounds. We don't want somebody to take the work that we've done, that we've put something into, and assess it and decide that it's not good enough. That doesn't matter. It feels like it matters, but you know it shouldn't matter. Look, nothing you create is gonna be good enough for everybody. There's gonna be somebody out there who's gonna poke a hole in your argument, whether or not there's an actual hole in your argument. It doesn't actually even matter. I wanna share with you a couple of experiences. I have to be honest. This, for me, is the hardest one from a mental health standpoint. This is the thing that gets me more than anything else. Last year, I had a member of my team leave the team. And when I did, it was shocking. It was, I'd say disheartening, but honestly, that word is far too weak for what it was. Seeing the way that our audience on a YouTube channel that I own, on Channel Makers, to see the way that so many of them reacted and the kinds of accusations and the kinds of claims that were made about me by people who don't even know me. And I was like, no, but these aren't true. It's not true. It's not true, right? And you start reading all these comments and you're like, no, all of you people think these horrible things about me. I literally watched as a body language expert, picked apart all of my facial expressions and completely misread the situation, only making it worse, and then read a bunch of comments from people who are like, oh, thank you for giving us so much clarity on this situation. And then they just thought even worse of me. Now, this was a situation that actually did lead to serious, like, business success type impact, like things that actually held me back and have caused my team and I to have to do a whole bunch of work, a whole bunch of damage control. But also, honestly, for me, the biggest impact was just what it did to my mental health. And then, not long ago, an SEO influencer decided to tell everybody on Twitter that I have had a net negative impact on society. I don't know what it takes for a person to say that kind of thing about another person. I can't even imagine doing that about virtually anybody. And the only people I can think of where I would maybe say that about are people where we would all agree they had a net negative impact on society. In fact, it was so exaggerated, the claims, that it actually made it a little bit easier for me to dismiss them. Here's what's worked for me, because I've faced that more in the last year than in probably my entire life combined. Even all the things that anybody might have ever said about me in high school, middle school, college, my entire life combined, I think I've had more in the last year. But I've also had plenty of it as a content creator over the years. People choose to pick on everything. Even if the things you say and the content you create is amazing, they're just like, yeah, but your eyes are too close together. Or the one I get all the time, hey, look guys, he's fat. Thanks, Captain Obvious. All right, anyway, here's what works best for me. First of all, getting a little bit of support from people who actually know me. It was really cool to see in both of these situations. It didn't happen immediately because it was the people who were negative and the people who were very active in those social media circles. They're the ones who jumped on things first. But eventually the word spread. And people who know me, who I didn't ask to do this, jumped on and said, no, this claim isn't true. And they had very positive things to say about me. I didn't even have to go in and like defend my own honor because there were other people who were like, hey, you're saying this, but look, this guy's changed my life. He's helped me. There were other people I talked to in my personal life, and this helped me a lot, was being able to just talk to people. But there were people I talked to and I said, look, he's saying these kinds of things and it's really kind of angering me. And to see their facial expressions was something that really helped me because their immediate reaction, that was probably the most genuine thing. Like, yeah, they could come up with really nice things to say, but their immediate reaction when I saw them react with like disbelief, that was actually a big help. And so for many of you who may have participated in that, thank you. Because you may or may not have any idea, but that actually helps me a whole lot. Now, those positive responses and stuff doesn't really stop all the other bullies on the internet from piling on. Honestly, everybody on the internet's got opinions about everything, even things they know nothing about. And so you're gonna get plenty of that. And you may face that as a content creator going forward. You're gonna face people who are gonna say mean things about you. Here's the next thing that helped me, was stepping back. Trying to emotionally sort of detach myself from that situation, not detach myself from my emotions, but for me to step back from that situation and look at it from the outside. How much impact was this gonna have on my actual business and on me achieving success? I told you, that first situation had a real impact. And there were things, a lot of things I've had to do as a result of that to try to just strengthen and secure my business so that my team, can all still have jobs. And so we can keep doing what we do here for you. But this second situation, honestly, it wasn't actually hurting anything. You see, the people who were piling on, those people were never gonna buy anything from me. Those people, many of whom I recognize their names, are people who've already decided at some point that they don't like me. So what further damage was actually being done? A lot of times bullies blow smoke and they don't do any real damage except the damage they do to the victim. And most of the time it's only if the victim gives them that power. Stepping back like that and just seeing it through that light though, that allowed me to just walk away. And guess what happened? The minute I walked away and just went back to work, doing my stuff, and decided I don't need to give that any more attention because it's not an opportunity or a detractor or anything that has any impact on my success. Back to the very beginning of this video. So it's not an opportunity that's worth my time. It's not a detraction that's worth my time. So I put my effort back into my work. Just like my mental health, all of it just rebounded almost immediately. And the anger, it went away. And in fact, when I was quiet about it, when I just ignored it from that point on, instead made the other guys just look like the bullies that they are. So keep this in mind. If you're going to be a content creator, if you're going to put yourself out there on the internet, people are going to talk about you. It's going to happen. But I learned this cool principle a while back, and I just love this. What other people think about you, and even what they say about you, it's none of your business. It's their business. And guess what? It's their problem. You can't do anything about what other people think about you. Just be the best version of you that you can be and focus on that. So bringing this all back together, set your core values, set your actual goals. Like, what does success mean to you? And forget about what the rest of the world thinks about success. What do you actually want? Work toward that. Only take on the work that's going to lead you to strengthening yourself along your core values, which might mean doing a lot of really good things to benefit and bless the people around you, because that's part of your goals. That's part of how you measure your success. That's how it is for me. So I'm not talking about being selfish and only spending time on things that are going to make you rich. Spend time and effort on the things that matter to you, and forget what all of the people around you think you should want and think you should do to be successful. And then as those people say whatever they want to say about you, who cares? You shouldn't. I shouldn't. So this video is as much for you as it is for me. Let's focus on doing what we can do, on growing what we can grow, and make sure that what we work on is aligned with how we define our success. I think we're going to find a lot more happiness. Now, if you are struggling with mental health, and if your mental health struggles go well beyond what we covered in this video, I do strongly suggest that you reach out and get help. I have had many times in my life when I needed help, not just from loved ones, but from someone who is a trained professional who knew what they were doing and whose values and principles align with mine. That has been one of the best things that's helped. It's helped my family. It's helped me in so many ways. So if you need that help, go get that help. I think we live in a world where as we move faster and faster and faster, AI is not slowing us down, right? Now we're expected to get 10 times more done in a day because we have AI to help us. Our brains are shifting focus 1,000 times a minute. The anxiety, I think, is only going to get worse unless we learn how to define our own success, how to manage our time, and how to take care of ourselves. So do that. Take care of yourself and be successful, whatever that means to you.